And then my roll number is 1.04/59. And then the way that we have come to know of IIT Madras was, I think, my elder brothers, they were in the academic field, and so because of that we knew the importance of the IITs compared to the other state colleges like Guindy or other PSG College of Technology or Kakinada and all of that. So if I remember right, the advertisements came in Hindu and Indian Express and other local papers sometime in May-ish kind of a time frame. So I applied for the admission, and I think we had the interview call sometime around maybe first week in June or maybe end of May or so. And so we had the interviews, and then the selection process was based upon our marks in the pre-university, and then we had an extended interview by about 6 to 8 IIT professors as well as the German professors, and I think they had two selection committee interviews were going on simultaneously, so I think they have done it in a matter of a day or two at best. And so I think after the interviews were over, we got the selection notice saying that you have been selected, and our first batch was about 120 people. The one thing that I wanted to mention about it was because they are designated as the Indian Institutes of Technology based upon Prime Minister Nehru's desires, we had representation all the way from Kashmir to Kerala, Assam to now at that time Bombay. So we are 120 of us, and then the students represented the entire cross section of India. And we had our first day of classes on June 22nd, 1959. At that time, our classes were conducted at the AC College of Technology in various rooms, as well as in the chemistry labs and then physics lab, and then the workshop used to be in the back area, and then the administration buildings used to be at CLRI. That's where the registrars and then the administration buildings used to be. One thing that I wanted to mention is when we came to our first day of classes on June 22nd, 1959.
July.
No, June. It was June 22nd in 1959. The entire faculty of IIT Madras, approximately about 20 to 25 people, including the German professors, were there on the steps of AC College of Technology to welcome us. And I don't think any one of the colleges at that time would have that kind of an honor by the faculty members of any institute. And then so it was really a great privilege to have that. And then we used to have our classes Monday through Friday, and then Saturday used to be a half a day. And then so we have 4 sections, A, B, C, D, and then we, as we call it, we had the sandwich sessions. A and B used to be in the academic, and C and D used to be in the workshop. So that means for 40 hours a week, we used to be in the academic area depending upon the designation, and then the other people used to be in the workshop. Then we reversed it the following week. So the emphasis that Germans did, because as all know, the West German government is the one that provided the support, technical support to IIT Madras. So their notion was that, hey, you are going to be an engineer. So what they wanted to make sure is when you will be provided with an engineering drawing, And if you are provided with an engineering drawing, you should be in a position to manufacture it. And then you should be able to read the drawing and then get the item manufactured. You have some small pieces of our workshop products. We had carpentry, we had smithy, and then we had the lathe work sometime in 61, 62-ish kind of a time frame when the workshops were built around not too far from this building. And I think later on, I believe they were demolished and then all of that. And so the first one used to be from, our classes used to be from 7:30 to 11:30 and then 1 to 4. And the hostels were at Saidapat hostels, and that used to be at behind the Teachers College campus, and it was actually previously, before we occupied, it was previously a girls' hostel of the Madras University. And then so we were about 80 of us in that Saidapat hostel for the vegetarian people. And then for the non-vegetarian people, about 40, it used to be at Gindi hostel. So from that hostel, we used to come around, I think leave the hostel after the breakfast and all of that, and come over to the classes around 7:30 with a bicycle. Most of us used to come by bicycles. And of course, I know we used to have some buses used to be there, but I think because of the vagaries of the Madras bus transportation, we prefer to come by bus. And then sometimes I think some people used to come, you can come across from the little Adayar river over there, from the back side of our Saidapat hostel, you could come across, but that was only in the evening kind of a time frame, but morning time frame generally we used to come by bus. So it was not too bad, the traffic was not too bad compared to what it is right now. And so the classes used to be held in the AC College of Technology, and then the first class used to be in English. Professor Krishnan used to be teaching us, and he used to teach Hamlet at that time. So I think he used to be the principal at the A.M. Jain College at Menambakam at that time. And so since he was teaching us the Hamlet, so he used to come with a nice pun and all of that, so with the red lips and all of that. So when he used to enter the thing in the auditorium, the lecture hall kind of an auditorium, we used to say, "Enter ghost." And then when he leaves, we used to say around, I think classes used to be about 1 hour duration, and when he leaves around 8:30, we used to call him exuent ghost, just to get a little bit of kick out of our classes and all of that. And then of course we had mathematics, physics, chemistry, and maths professor used to be the Professor Hahn, and so when Professor Hahn, and then in the mathematics, and then Professor Koch in physics, the entire faculty of that department used to be in the back row. And one comment that I wanted to make a mention, because after 60 years plus, generally the German professor used to teach in the early stages of our instructions. And then so Professor Hahn used to teach us mathematics, and then he used to teach the algebra at that time. And then Sean series were I think they just came into vogue at that time. So he used to teach the Sean series, and then in the algebra from the Sean series. So once in a while, Professor S.K. Srinivasan, at that time he was the assistant professor at in the maths department. And then so when he made a mistake or something was incorrect, Professor Hahn used to have a little habit of putting his finger like this. And then the moment he puts that finger like this, then Srinivasan used to get very nervous, saying that he made a mistake, and then he used to be a little bit jumping a little bit on the platform over there. So when he used to do that, we knew that Professor Hahn was putting his finger like this. So anyway, that was a little bit of a fun factor of the various teachers. And then of course we had the tutorial classes. And so when we had tutorial classes, I think particularly on Saturdays, I think, they used to have various tutorial classes to help us out with the understanding of the concept, to make sure that we understood the principles behind what they were talking about in math, physics, chemistry, and all of that. And then we had the chemistry labs as well as the physics labs in the IIT College of Technology. Initially, Dr. Venkateswarlu, he was actually the professor in the chemical engineering, but he used to be the one. And I think one of the other names that I remember was Ramasarma, and then I forget the names. But there are not that many people. In each department, we had about less than 4 to 5 people. And then Ram Shastri used to be in the physics department. And then I think BHP, not getting the name, that few of the people were there. So we had a wonderful lab experience, and we used to do the YouTube principles thing. And one thing that I wanted to mention, when we were doing the YouTube experiment in the physics lab, that is where we will have to determine the purpose of the experiment was to determine the frequency of the tuning fork. If I remember right, there's a standard used to be around 600 or 650 cycles or whatever. So you have the YouTube, and then so what you do is you need to get a resonance when you strike the thing with a rubber mallet and then put it on the top of the thing, and then you get the minimum or the maximum and all of that based upon the column of water. You could determine the tuning fork frequency. And one of the comments that Professor Ramasastri used to make is, you need to have a musical ear to figure out when is the maximum volume and then when is the minimum volume, depending upon the column of water. But anyway, we used to have a lot of fun with the experience. One thing that I also wanted to mention is most of these faculty members were around 25 to 35-ish kind of a range compared to the director who were maybe 40 plus and all of that. So for them, in the first few years when we were there, because we were all around 16 plus 17 in the beginning, and then so essentially by the time we graduated in 64, we were about 21, 22-ish kind of a thing. So they really, the affections that they had for us in the first batch, on the subsequently in the second batches and third batches, they treated us more like their younger brothers. And so we were only 120 I think in the first batch, and then similarly in the second batch also only 120 plus. So we had such a close-knit kind of a relationship on a one-on-one kind of a thing. So they know all of our names by first name, and even sometimes our pet names that all of us had in some fashion or other. And then of course my name was, my nickname was PMV, my initials and all of that. Similarly, the other people had some different names. And then so we had that kind of a close relationship compared to what it is right now. Because obviously now I was told, I think today is the first day of class. I think there are about 850 or 900 people in the first day or the first year batch. There is no way you could have the personal relationship with each of the individual ones. First 2 years, we were in Saidapet hostel, and then the third year, beginning of third year, that is June of 1961, we came onto the campus. We lived in Krishna and Kaveri, or the first hostel that got built. Actually, Krishna was the first one, so the second batch of people actually came onto the campus first time. They occupied the hostels in 1960. At that time, it was called the Taramani Hostel. Then later on, they changed it to the Krishna and Kaveri and all of that. So, so basically, my room number was room 107 Kaveri Hostel, and now I think it is now room 207. And we had wonderful time at because all of us used to be in the hostels. And one thing that Sengupta, our first director, insisted was that everybody in the IIT has to be resident in a hostel. There are few of our classmates. They had their houses, their parents' houses in Saidapet and Adayar and all of that, and they wanted to get an exemption. But he said no, he will not allow that. So basically, he said, okay, if you want to do that, that's fine. You have to pay your room rent, irrespective whether you stay or not. But finally, anyway, they have to stay and all of that. So I think the thing that I really like in that one is, by staying in the hostels, we develop our soft skills. And so, because as I was mentioning in the first batch, we had representation across the whole cross-section of the country, we know the idiosyncrasies of the various people from the various states, their cultural and then food habits and idiosyncrasies. And so, by the time that we got to final year in 64, all our idiosyncrasies and then sharp corners have been rounded off. So that really helped us to, whenever we go and get a job in some other locations across the country, or even for that matter across the world, we know how to conduct ourselves in the various social situations as well as in professional situations with people that are different, either Indian or the foreigners or something of that kind, American, Britishers or something. So that helped us to have the soft skills, and that really helped us out. And then after our first day classes on campus used to be in 1960. The first building we had was in the building sciences building, and then the classes used to be held in room 105. And that's where most of our classes used to be held. And then of course, then later on we had the mechanical engineering, electrical, and then I'm from electrical. And then they used to have the light current designation for the electronics, and then the heavy current for the heavy current for the power people. And so we had our classes in electrical engineering building, I think sometime in 1961. And then of course we had the humanities building, and then the other workshops and all of that. And then so I think that was the setup. And then we graduated on July 11th, 1964. And then the previous day, one fun factor was the faculty gave the graduate class of 92 plus from BTech, and then 15 from the MTech people, a dinner with Hema Malini providing the dance number. At that time, Hema Malini was about 15, 16 years old or something. And so her family requested our first registrar, R. Natarajan, and then so through her, so she had the dance performance. And so that was a very memorial and memorable kind of a event. And then of course our first convocation was on July 11th, 1964, and President Radhakrishnan was our guest speaker. And then, of course, the thing was held in the open-air theater. And so I think that was the thing. And then also the other thing is, I did my MTech also over here in 64 to 66. And so I was here on campus almost for about 7 years. Because the actual campus was 5, because considering the 2 years we were at Sadapet Hostel. So the way that I feel is because of the love of learning and then the critical thinking skills that our professors have inculcated in us, that stood us in a very strong fashion when we are in a professional career anywhere in the world. So soon after my graduation from IIT Madras, I started working at Bharat Electronics in the special projects team, and then I was there for about 5.5 years, and then I went to US to do my masters, and then after the masters and the MBA and all of that, I started working at NASA Johnson Space Center in the Space Shuttle program, and then the Space Station program, Constellation, and then the Mission Control Center, and then I retired in 2012 from the service. And so I still live in Houston, and then it is really a great honor for us that we had the honor that the director and the other people have done last night at the event in the Science Activities Building. One thing that I wanted to make a little appeal for all the people is, number one, is right now there are about 48,000 of us who graduated from IIT Madras. First batch, we were 92 BTech and then 15 MTech. So first graduating class on July 11th, 1964 was 107 people. Now we are a total of about 48,000. From the figures that I heard from the Dean of International and Alumni Relations, Mahesh Panchagnula, approximately about 10%, about 5,000 people have given. And I wanted to give back to the IIT Madras in some fashion. Some people have given enormously, like Chris and Deshpande and others, but whereas others, I think quite a few of the people have not really contributed to the IIT Madras. I would really urge all of you to just to consider a fact of life, how IIT Madras contributions stack up against the world-class institutions like MIT, Stanford, Dartmouth and other. Our numbers are around 10%, less than 10%. The numbers for MIT, I know sure MIT was about 150 years plus. The alumni of MIT, 30% of the people give back to MIT. Dartmouth, the numbers when I checked last was about 36%. So right now, if you really compare, if you want to be the world-class institution competing against the Stanfords, MITs and Harvards, we really need to increase our contributions to give back to the institution for the various purposes. And I think they have multiple purposes that the office has created in order to give back to the institution. So please contribute whatever you could, $1 or 1 rupee. Sure, you may have various reasons why you cannot do it because of the family considerations and other considerations. But every one of us can give a $1 or 1 rupee. You are what, remember, you are what you are in your life thanks to the education you got from IIT Madras. Think about it. Contemplate on it. Please contribute in whatever way you could, over a period of time or whatever you could do, or at one time, or work with the international alumni relations, and then as well as with mom, and then so give something back to the institution, because it is for us, the 48,000 of us, to improve the world standing of IIT Madras. Along those lines, I wanted to make an appeal for the founding professors' endowment chairs. Professor Sampath, he was our first director, deputy director, and then later on he was also our first our professor of electronics. And then because he made a profound impact on me, and so basically the thought came to us sometime in 2011, and finally in 2016 we were able to establish Professor Sampath's endowment chair in December of 2016. Based upon the success of it, even though we had some little difficulty to raise the money and all of that, we made it happen. What I wanted to emphasize in this appeal is we wanted to establish the endowment chairs for all of the founding professors who were there from the beginning of times, from 59 to approximately 64 or 65-ish kind of a time frame. It is for us the 64 to 69 graduates, approximately 1,200 of us, to contribute towards this 48 professors, 36 Indians and 12 Germans. And I got a thing on the website, and then I will be sending out a note out shortly. That thing was announced yesterday for the Professor Sengupta's chair, and then Professor Natarajan's endowment lecture series was also announced yesterday. So what I would urge you is, to the extent that you could, these 1,200 of us, the alumni, both from BTech, MTech, either 3x3 or a 5x5 or a MSc or MTech or PhD, please do contribute whatever we could to get these 48 professors money raised. And I'm going to be asking apart from the alumni, I will be seeking the help from our professors' family and their children, non-profit organizations as well as the corporations, plus some of the philanthropists that are there across, like Ajim Premji or the Tatas and all of that. And yesterday at the meeting, I was able to meet with our director, the previous director, Natarajan, as well as the Chris Gopalakrishnan and other people. And I said, okay, hey, I will come and meet you. So I'm meeting some of them on 16th to help us out to raise the money. Total money is what I need is about $500. I mean, $5 million, not 500, sorry, $5 million. And I think just to get a little kick out of it, the people in our generation knew about the Chaltika Naam Gade that was released in about 57, 58 kind of a time frame. And then I think Kishore Kumar and Madhubala were the hero and heroines at that time. And so Kishore Kumar's song was Panch Rupaya, Bara Ana and all of that. So what I need is about $5 million, folks. Let us try to contribute in whatever way we could to fund all of the 48 endowment chairs. Yesterday I was also talking with the German Consulate General from Madras, and then she said she would try to help. So what I would really urge you, the purpose of this message is give back to the institutions in whatever way you could. 1 rupee, $1. Please honor your commitment to the institute Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Siddhir Bhavati Karmaja. Thank you.